Story: Rebecca Grossman, co-founder of the Grossman Burn Foundation, convicted of second-degree murder and other charges for running down two young boys in a Westlake Village intersection in 2020.
Now, the 9-man, 3-woman jury reached its verdict after 9 hours of deliberations.
Joining us now is legal analyst Neama Rahmani, former federal prosecutor, co-founder of West Coast Trial Lawyers. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, as always.
And what do you make of the verdict? Right verdict? Did you expect this, or was this a surprise?
Just verdict, and this is the former prosecutor to me. This was murder, malice murder. But I can tell you that these types of cases are not common, especially in LA County. George Gascon has gotten a lot of flack for not being hard on crime. Rarely are these cases charged as murder and instead as manslaughter. But I think it's the just result. And I'm not surprised because the facts were so egregious here.
And it seems this jury was really paying close attention to the case. They deliberated for just 9 hours in total before reaching the verdict. They even asked a question just to make sure they got it right before delivering that verdict.
Well, the conventional wisdom is that, usually jurors are deliberate about an hour or so for each day of testimony. It was a little bit shorter than that, but there's a lot of pressure on jurors to return verdicts Friday afternoon. About half of all jury verdicts end up coming Friday afternoon because, of course, there's that pressure to get it done before the weekend. But again, I think these jurors listened, they paid attention, they did their job, and you have two young children who were killed. So this was the just result.
From outside the courtroom, it did appear that a lot of physical evidence was against her, and it does seem that her lawyers tried to raise some reasonable doubt about the physical evidence, but it didn't look to us from outside that she swayed the jury in any way on that. And obviously, now that we had the verdicts, we know that was the case. Is that how you read it?
I do. And, you're talking about someone that maybe didn't want to do any time, but Grossman and her lawyers, they got greedy. They tried to point the finger at her boyfriend, Erickson, but there's really no evidence that even though he was racing, he was the one that hit those two boys. So, if I were her defense lawyer, and I don't do any defense work, but what I would have said is, listen, this is a tragic accident. This happened. I am responsible. Rebecca Grossman is responsible, but she had no intent. She had no malice to do this. This is manslaughter. This is not murder. But she tried to get off entirely, and the jurors punished her as a result.
And now, after she tried to do that, what is she looking at here? It's a long time.
A long time, 25 to life for those murder counts. And so I think the judge will probably sentence her to the lower end of that range because, again, it's not your typical murder where someone, pulls out a gun or stabs someone. But she's going to do significant time in state prison. The judge isn't going to be able to go lower than that number. So she's going to be looking at decades in state prison.
All right, thanks for joining us. Talking about the Rebecca Grossman murder trial, it's Neama Rahmani there, former federal prosecutor, co-founder of West Coast Trial Lawyers.